today's project, we're going to clean this condenser and get it ready for the summer. So the first thing you want to do is inspect your unit. Now, this had a bunch of weeds growing around it. I already removed that. You can see some of the stone fell out over here, washed out over the winter. We got all kinds of stuff on the coils itself. There's some stuff down inside we're gonna have to clean out. In order to do that, we're gonna take the fan off, remove the access cover, we're gonna give it a good cleaning, and then put it back together. So the first step is go in this unit here. You're gonna pull that guy right there. That's your circuit breaker. Just pull it straight out. Let's remove the cover. So on the back side now, I removed the cover screws. There was 4, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. And last year, I actually had a snake living inside here. And when I fired up the unit, cooked the snake, and it also fried my capacitor. So I'm just gonna do an inspection and just make sure nothing's living in here. I haven't opened this up yet, so let's see. Nothing living in there. You can see that's where Mr. Snake got it last year. But let's take a closer look. We got some, looks like some beetles, stink bugs, some cobwebs. So all we're gonna do is just blow all this stuff off of here. Just make sure it's nice and clean. Let's take a broom and just kind of go through and get a knock off all this stuff that's in here. Went ahead and removed the 4 screws holding the fan on. We're gonna lift this fan out, but if you notice, there's wires down in there and they're tied. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this tie, and it'll give us enough slack of these wires to be able to remove this fan safely. If you don't do that, and you start tugging on these wires, you could actually cut the wires on this housing here. It is rounded, but you don't want to put a whole lot of strain on these. Just take a pair of snips, and it's a quick tech tip, always cut behind the head of the zip tie. When you go in here and you try to cut the bundle, you're sometimes going to catch a wire, but if you go right underneath the head, there's a point that's always above the wire. You'll never cut the wire. Pull that zip tie, and there you go. You got all these wires loose now, you can pull the fan. And another tech tip, I'm gonna replace this zip tie, but I'm gonna use a resealable zip tie. See this head on there? It's got this little prong on here. You push on it and you can release the zip in the future, so you don't have to keep cutting and wasting these. This is the only application I recommend using something like this. So if it ever fails, it's gonna stay contained within the shielding and the housing that goes on here. So let's go ahead and pull that fan. So on the inside, I went ahead and I pulled these wires out a little bit, and then feeding through here, I was able to pull this whole sleeving out. This is usually inside this hole, and then just set it up against the side of the building. And now we have open access to clean all this out. So get your vacuum, get your brush, leaf blower, whatever, and let's clean this all up. Just want to point out this coil here and these fins. You have to be very careful not to damage it. So I don't want to get in here and start banging on this and hitting it real hard. So again, just take your time, use your brush, clean it all out. Okay, now the inside's all cleaned. Let's move to the outside. For that, we're gonna drop this fan back down and let it sit on top. With the fan back down, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to this cage and you're gonna remove all of these screws. This is probably the most neglected step. People try to come in here and hose this off and vacuum through these little grate holes, and you can never get it clean enough. Plus, you get all kinds of junk down here in the tray that you still can't get out. So take the extra time. I think it was 12 bolts. And you're gonna loosen those and you're gonna get it down just enough so that you can pop this cover up and you can pull this screen right out. Okay, with that grate out, now we can get a better look what's going on. So, see all this stuff? You gotta take all that off. This is like 20% reduced capacity just from this stuff being on here, because it's not able to pull in air to cool these fins and then exhaust out the top. That's how this works. So it's pulling air in, and all these particulates, pollen, dust, all this kind of stuff clogs this up, reduces the efficiency. So you have to clean this. And if you look around the backside, I actually didn't clean that last year. Look at how caked that is. So that's after one season. I think it was just too darn hot. And then this was since I cleaned it. So I'm sorry, that's 2 seasons there. And then this is 1 season. So you have to do this regularly. So for this, take our soft bristle brush, vacuum cleaner. Let's agitate this surface, suck as much of this off as possible, and then see where we are after that. So that's after using the soft bristle brush. That works pretty good. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch to a brass brush, and that'll really clean down inside these coils. You can see the surface stuff is gone. Not a whole lot's fallen off by doing that. But now we gotta get in there and dig the rest of it out. So let's do another pass with the brass brush. All right, so I'm on my 3rd side, and I want to illustrate a point. So I haven't done anything to this yet, and I want to show you that vacuuming by itself does not work. So here's just the vacuum. So it took off the surface. Okay, that's fine. But watch this. No vacuum, just pulling this stuff out. Look at all that. That will get jammed back up in those coils if you don't clean it out. So let's vacuum the rest of this. Look at how nice and clean that is. You're actually picking up a little bit of the shine from these fins. That's not dirt. Try to get you a different angle so you can see it. It's very clean compared to what it was. Keep going. So here's the finished product all cleaned up. See all the pollen removed, all the junk. And got back there real good. Let's put the grate back on. The cage back on, you can kind of see you can manipulate this top to get it nice and square. So just make sure it lines up with the base. It's a pretty good job. We'll reorient this on the ground, but just make sure that the unit's square. And then we'll go ahead and pull in our excess wires. So we just grab these and pull the access so that it's not sticking out. So fan blade doesn't catch it like that. See that? So just pull that in so it's out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and install the fan. Just get it in hand tight. You don't have to crank it on there. Okay, so this unit is all back together. Everything's snug. And we're gonna now square and level the base. Make sure this is flat. Put back on the cover, close it all up, put the fuse back in, and then we can test fire it. Okay, to check it for level, throw your level on there. See, it's pitched down to the right, and then this way, see, it's pitched back towards the building. So we're gonna have to raise it up like that. And in order to do that, we're just gonna kind of pry up on it a little bit, shove some stones underneath it until we get it level. Check it perpendicular and parallel to the building and make sure it's nice and level. So now we're level. You might be saying to yourself, why is it out of level? So this form was put here by the previous homeowner to try and hold the stones. Problem is, over time, it has lifted and the stone has washed away. It's basically useless. So what we're gonna do is we're going to reset this form. I got some washed gravel, and we're going to reset the form and then fill in the gaps to slow down this so it's not going to move on us throughout the summertime. It's still going to move. You can't stop Mother Nature, but we can try and slow it down. Okay, it didn't look like much, but the form is now sitting on the ground. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna backfill this all the way around with the rest of the stone. We don't wanna compromise the fact that we got this level, but anytime you see underneath here where there's a gap, we're actually gonna shove some stone underneath there as far as we can get it, because we only leveled the corner. So the middle's still unsupported. It's not gonna move on us, but you need to tuck some stone up underneath there. Still nice and level. Okay, we got it all filled up with our stone. It's nice and compact. You can even take your bar and kind of tamp it down a little bit. So last part is we're going to go ahead and re-secure these wires, put the cover on, put the fuse back in, and we should be all set. Put the zip tie right around here. Remember, this is a reusable zip, so I'll loop this around. Feed it through like that. Make sure we get this brown wire underneath. Stress relief.
You can hire a HVAC tech to come out, put things for you. I don't think it's a lot of money, I think it's $100 now. But doing this kind of stuff and enjoy doing it, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort. I'm using minimal tools. I spent a couple times going back and forth to the garage if I forgot something, but it's a pretty straightforward process.
Okay, cover back on. Everything's together. Still nice and level. Last thing, take your connector. This only goes in one way, so the contacts are going down. Line it up, clicks into place. Close that up, and you're done. As always, thanks for watching.